It's the start of your post-match here on the Blue Room. I'm waiting for Dave Downey for a while, so I thought I'll start this in the ground. As you can hear, I thought to give people a little taste of the atmosphere at full time. It's absolutely bouncing today. The Blues, so much better, so comprehensively better than Leeds, completely outplayed Leeds. As you can hear, there's new songs going off everywhere about Dele Alli, and everything was just so much better than we've seen for so long today. The atmosphere was absolutely boss from the start. People with flags, supporters looking to get behind the team from the beginning. Great to see all of that happening, and the players fed off it in those first 20 minutes were just unbelievable. The way in which the team got about the pitch, put tackles in, midfield pair, setting the tempo brilliantly, Van der Beek and Alan, and it just went on from there really. And like I said, Everton were comprehensively better than Leeds, and even games at the start of the season when we were getting points and coming away with good draws here and there, I don't think in any of those matches Everton were really so much better than the opposition as they were today. Leeds have got defensive issues and injuries, but so have Everton, and Everton completely put them to the sword today. It could have been more in the end. Just a really encouraging day, and on my way out to Goodison Park now. Hopefully won't be waiting too long for Dave, but just a boss atmosphere, and I thought to start the podcast by giving everybody a bit of a taste of it. Next up is be a bit more serene soundings of Dave Downey's car. We'll be back with you in a sec. Out of the frying pan of the Gladys Street there, and into the relative serenity of Dave Downey's car. Just me and you today, mate. After that as well, all season we've had so many people on moaning about everything, and the Blues absolutely smashed it today, and it's just the two of us.
Hey mate, pretty much nearly bang on 10 years of doing the Blue Room, and how often I used to say this when I was doing radio phone-ins and stuff like that, that when your team wins, hardly anyone wants to have a chat about it. When your team loses, everyone wants to have a chat about it. And today seems no different by it's the fact that it's just me and you. Yeah. The good old Blue Room sitting in my car as everyone walks out of Gladys Street. But yeah, I mean, boy, did we need that. Not everyone goes far as saying incredible performance, but it was a performance worthy of what we want to see. And I think the first thing to talk about, Matt's not to do with what was actually on the pitch, it's what was off the pitch. And I applaud in every single man, woman and child that got involved with what we've seen on Twitter, in getting as much as support, everything you've got inside you to get through your throat and out onto that pitch happened today. I thought everyone was superb. I've said this many times, I sit by quite a lot of older fans around by me. Even those guys up on their feet, shouting as loud as they could. People giving everything they had for this football club. And for once, and I extremely doubted this, as we said in the preview, as we said on one of the weekly shows, I was really worried about Leeds, but we beat them at everything they were good at. Yeah. And that was the key to winning this game today. I think to every single one of them, for once, I mean, when's the last time you've been able to say this, but every player on that pitch in an Everton shirt wanted to win for Everton. They wanted to win for the people who were shouting for them on the sidelines. And do you know something? This might be getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but when you see players and fans in sync, there's not much better than that area that we've just come out of, Matt. Yeah. When it happens, it must be a quite intimidating sight, even for Leeds, who are a football club that's famous for its atmospheres at Elland Road and its fans. I mean, it's fair play to their fans, they sung all the way till the end. And that is amazing. I think that's brilliant when you see football fans doing that in this day and age, when we're all paying so much to go to football matches and watch them. They've watched their team not perform well, beaten by a much better side today. I think every single one of them. The diehards would say that today. And we went and did that. And, there's the formula. And I said to a guy who's sitting alongside me, who travels down here and back all the way from the northeast to watch Everton, I said to him, do you know what? It doesn't it do your head in that this has always been the formula that sorts something out in here, and it's not that it's not difficult. It's not complicated at all. Do you know what I mean? Albert Einstein. We're not looking at him. How difficult this is to do. You just want effort. You just want pure effort. And I don't know if you've seen a couple of times when Pickford was getting the ball from behind the the goal, he come back out and he was patting the badge and all that sort of thing. Things that he's done in the past, but things that he's done when it didn't feel like it meant much. This felt like it meant something today. And yeah, it was a fabulous game to attend at Goodison Park. Did I think I'd be saying those words anytime soon in the last, 6 months or so under Rafa Benitez? Absolutely not. And I absolutely applaud Frank Lampard as well. I thought his team, I was gobsmacked when I saw Iwobi. That's the best game Alex Iwobi's ever had in an Everton shirt today, by an absolute mile. He was everywhere. He put his foot down. He just tried to win the ball back when he didn't have it. When he did have it, he's looking to link with Calvert-Lewin. It was great to see. Richarlison was superb as well. The pair of them, Richarlison and Iwobi, were with each other. It was almost like they were in sync of trying to win the ball back every single time we lost it.
Oh, Gordon was fantastic.
He was, exactly. Throw him into that sort of... that trio that was neither here nor there at times. I thought formation-wise, the way in which we played, it was fluid and it was nice. And I'm thinking, if you watch that game and you're not an Everton fan and you've not seen these two teams, which one of those two would you say the ones who are in real trouble this season? And I know we're closer to, we're only a couple of points behind Leeds with games in hand and all that sort of thing, but that was so much needed. And it's the type of game, Matt, as Blues in the past, where you're like, how many times I said to the guy alongside me, how many times every time it comes to renewing your ticket, which we're getting up to that time of year now, and you get that paper or that email sent to you, and you have that look at yourself. It's almost like you stare yourself in the mirror and think, do we go one more time? Do we do that again? Do I put my hard? Do I put
one more year?
Do I put my hard-earned cash into this? It's a little bit different these days because obviously I think a lot of people are hanging on for what we're going to get in Bramley-Moore. Hopefully we're successly going there as a Premier League side. Today was a big step towards getting us and making sure that we're certainly there for at least the next season. And that's the game that keeps you going back. There are games that happen, there are moments that happen every single season where you're like, that's what keeps them coming back. It's like talking to a salesman. And when they knock at your door and you say, what have you got, mate? And they'll start talking to you and you're like, shut the door, slam the door. Don't want any of that. Don't want any of that at all. But I have got this. And that's what Everton have got. That's the way they seem to do things. They'll hand that thing to you and say, do you know it's worth that? I'm going to go back for a little bit more. And that was tonight's game. That was tonight's day where you thought, I'm going to invest in these.
It's the hook, isn't it? It's the
hook.
hook.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're right about the atmosphere, and I just want to touch upon that briefly. And it's the organisation, I think, of it this week. Seeing
superb
various groups get behind it. The club
27 campaign, everything to do with that. All the clubs that we support, all the clubs we've had on as well, Matt.
But it's even stuff like there's obviously pieces in the Echo in the week as well. The fans forum were interacting, and it felt like a coordinated thing to do. And listen, the circumstances of the game and the fact that it was Lampard's first Premier League home game and the position of the team at the moment, it's not always going to be like that, is it? But there's no reason why it can't be 70-80% of that most times with the right organisation and the right sort of the banner that come down as well, even though it was directly in front of me. It looked fantastic. But I think you're right. I think there were a couple of times where you looked at Leeds trying to play out and you thought, they flapped it there. And when they start doing that, and when every pass you seem to play goes out of play or is miscontrolled, and the home crowd are on it and jeering and getting stuck on. So it happened to us on Tuesday, didn't it, against Newcastle? We saw that the power of St James's Park, and today Leeds felt that the power of Goodison. And you, just on the performance, you mentioned free plays there. You could go through so many, but I'm honestly struggling to remember a time where we were that much better than an opponent in a Premier League game. Because even if you go back to the start of the season where they were beating teams like Southampton on the opening day, you had Burnley came to Goodison, I think we had Norwich as well, who we beat. And those games were all sort of quite even, they were quite bitty, and we got chances at times and we scored. But I think every single department today, in regards to quality on the ball, in regards to defensive play, in regards to aggression, in regards to work rate, every single thing, you do a checklist of what you want to see from your football team, and you say who won in that area today. It was Everton. Everton were just miles better than Leeds today. And listen, they had a couple of moments through Rodrigo in the first half, didn't they, which could have got them back into the game. But it wasn't like we were under pressure and they were peeling us back and they were probing and they were trying to get through and you thought, oh no, there's a goal coming here. Throughout the game, Everton managed it really, really well. And I think the first half performance was very different to the second half performance, and it was good the substitutes came on and chipped in it and helped out. But those first 20 minutes, mate, just a whirlwind, weren't they? And I think it was telling that I think Anthony Gordon after 15 minutes was on his haunches, taking big deep breaths because they were all working that hard. And it was almost like Lampard said, go and empty the tank in those first 15 minutes, and just gave them license to say, just run and tackle and do everything as hard as you can and try and get that goal to get in front. And then when you do, we'll cling on to it then and the fans will see us home. And it felt like that was the blueprint, because I don't know about you, but after 25 minutes or whatever it was when we were 2-0, I was still thinking, there's a few tired legs on that pitch there, because they rode that wave, didn't they, the atmosphere in the first 20 minutes.
You simply have to look at who the team it was against, who are renowned for fitness, they're renowned for pace, they're renowned for giving 110% the players, not stopping. We beat Leeds on that. And there won't be many teams this season that beat Leeds in that particular facet of what they do as a club. And right from the minute go, often when you've called for the fans to do what we need to do in order to get our team over the line, you'll see it for the first 10 or 15, like you said, and then that's it. It'll sort of disappear slightly. Almost akin to what I think many people think there's an atmosphere at Anfield. For the first 5 minutes, there's a big atmosphere at Anfield. I'll give them that. But after that, there's nothing until the final 90 at Anfield, and that's when, I think that's obviously when everyone takes the photos, everyone gets that nice picture.
They used to win, aren't they now, so.
Oh, yeah, but what I'm saying in terms of atmosphere, that was such a big part of today and a big subject for everybody going into this week. If every Everton fan was a player, they get a 10 out of 10 today. And thankfully, and similarly, we can say that the players, all of them, I can't think of anyone that had a bad performance.
No.
There were some who had better than others, of course. That's the way football works. But every single one of them, like you said, I think that's a perfect expression to what you've just said there about them. Empty the tank of what you've got. And in some of them, you could tell there was anger. In some of them, there was, I need to prove myself here. Probably to the point, John Joe Kenny and Alex Iwobi having to perform themselves, almost like if you'd known it, you'd think someone just said to them, listen, you're performing here or you're gone. It was that type of performance for a few players, Matt, I felt. And I do want to single out Iwobi, because he gave everything, and that hasn't always been the case, as we know. We know he's got certain qualities, and I don't think, look, he gets ripped apart by not just Everton, he'll get ripped apart by Arsenal fans, he'll get ripped apart by everybody who's watched them play. Today you give both quality at times, but also effort. I don't know if you've seen right towards the end, I think there's a couple of minutes left, he ended up in my corner. He's playing it right back up your end, and he ended up back next to John Joe Kenny, fighting to get the ball back. And again goes back to that. The magic formula isn't so magic. It's simple. It's not as complicated as what people think. And Frank Lampard there today, and I know I've been excited. I probably got a little too excited about having him as the manager because of what he was like as a professional player. When in real life, we don't know how good of a manager he is or is going to be. We've seen things. How he sorted that out, I think Paul Clement was probably a big part of this defensively as well. I don't know if you know, somebody was getting down on his knees when they had corners. So it looked to me like he's looking at what he's asked of those defenders. And the first thing I said was today, Michael Keane should have a sore head, because they had Dan James playing centre forward for them. Anything that goes up in the air shouldn't be anywhere near him. And it wasn't, to his credit. Holgate, much better too. I'll be honest, when I saw the lineup, I thought, what on earth are we doing here? What is going on? Why is Iwobi in there? Said to a couple of friends walking in there, I was like shaking my head at this. But again, to applaud Lampard to get a tick out of those guys who we've, ever since they've been here, doubted. Is a big plus for him as the manager as well.
Well, it felt like, I said there about in terms of them emptying the tank and going and making, expending so much physical energy in those first 25, 30 minutes. I think, Iwobi in particular is, sometimes when you've got a manager who's a bit more cautious and you've got a crowd that wants to see front foot football at home, you can almost see like the cogs turning in the player's brain, can't you, in regards to if it gets played out to the fullback and Goodison's edging you on, they're thinking, should it go? Should it go or should it keep the shape? Because, in one sense, you've got a fan base and a crowd that wants to see the players go on the front foot and close people down. And on the other side, you've got a manager who's probably saying, no, keep your shape, be a bit more cautious. And I think Iwobi probably... You can see those gears in his head turn more than anyone. Sometimes, like, the ball goes out and you can almost see him stop and think, like, should I go or should I stay?
What did he say to me in training? Yeah.
Yeah, and whereas today it was like, as soon as it was out there, it was like, gone. And it was the same with Anthony Gordon, and it was the same with Alan, who I thought was, first off, in particular, I thought he was absolutely outstanding. But just looking back at the game, Dave, obviously we get the goal early on. It's a brilliant pass from Anthony Gordon to put in Van der Beek, and then he puts a great ball across. Good defending by the Leeds centre-back, and Coleman obviously gets on the end of it. And then I sort of feel like two really important things happen in between the first goal and the second goal. One is that shot, that unbelievable volley effort from Rodrigo, crashes off the bar. Thankfully, it doesn't go in.
He nearly outdoes that later on as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that one hit the underside of the bar. I don't know how that didn't go in, but he was arsed. But sort of going back to what I was saying about the players being given licence to press, the second goal comes from Richarlison chasing down a lost cause. It would have been right in front of your end, and that's something that doesn't happen a couple of weeks ago, because he's probably told to keep his shape and be a little bit more reserved. We saw it last week with Anthony Gordon against Brentford, going and winning the ball back, getting a corner out of nothing, and we're scoring from it. And exactly the same thing happened today. And it's at the time, you look at it and think it could be a little inconsequential moment. It might not mean that much, but that's why you do those things. And the more that those things happen, and the more those things lead to big moments, then the more the players are going to want to do it as well.
Well, the law of average, when you do that, Matt, something will happen if you keep doing it. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that Lampard, Paul Clements, everyone else, Big Dunk, will have been banging into them at training, is just keep fucking going, will you, lads? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Don't stop. Don't put your head down when you've tried to win a ball and it's bounced off you and gone out for their throw-in. All that stuff. Just the odds just don't work like that in life and in football, where something will come your way, and make sure you're there to grab it. And today they were. Today, all of them fought up front. And, I think if you had Frank Lampard sat in front of us now, you could explain to him what you felt as a fan today, and he'd say, exactly, that's what I wanted to see from each of these players. When's the last time we've been able to say that? At some point under Ancelotti last season, maybe. But now there's a blueprint there, and we've got some difficult fixtures coming up. Going to Southampton is going to be difficult to do the exact same thing in terms of having Goodison there. But that to me was a reinvention of what Goodison should be and what the players should do today. And that's what, I'm not going to say excites me. We've still got to get out of a load of crap. That's a huge 3 points. I think Brentford personally going to get dragged into, if you look at the table. I think they played a lot, 24 games they played. It'll be 25 games tomorrow. We'll have 3 games in hand over them. And Leeds are smacked into it now as well. We've brought them into it. I'm now starting to think, okay, let's deal each of these games like we have today. And this felt more cup-like than the Brentford one, in my opinion, Matt. When I'm watching them do every sort of traditional thing you want to see at Goodison, it's almost like somebody said to Frank Lampard, and I'd love it if someone asked him, hey, last week after that crap at Newcastle, did someone give you a video to look at what Goodison's been like in the good days, in the good times, in the Moyes days?
How to get the best out of Goodison 101.
Exactly, yeah. And that felt like what he did to a T. His substitutions were perfectly fine. It was interesting to see how that midfield lined up. I think everybody was looking at that, given how bad Alan was at Newcastle. He stunk the place out. Today, he was much better. Didn't look like the same player today. I thought there was a discipline in where he decided to be when he needed to be in certain positions. And again, Bielsa will be having kittens right now, by the way.
Yeah.
On the park end in their dressing room. He'll be absolutely seething the way in which they've been beaten, because we've outdone what he does today. Not many do that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying, Man City and all that. The obvious do it.
Yeah.
But sides who are as weak and as poor as we've been, to do that today, took a hell of an effort.
Well, Everton legged them off the pitch, didn't they? Essentially.
Well, what I wanted to ask you, yeah, they did. Yeah. It's the type of thing where you see a scrap at school and the kid who loses just walks off. That's what it felt like to me in the last 20, say, particularly when he made it 3.
And that must. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. That must be horrible when a team is beating you at your things. Like, hang on, we're meant to be good at this. Not you know. And if you take away that from them, if you can match them for effort and work rate and all that, and that's their route to getting results, then all of a sudden it's like, well, what do we do now, lads?
There were a lot of faces like that looked down there, and Bielsa, I'm not going to say Bielsa because I think he's a wonderful, wonderful manager, and he's done so much good in football. You think of the managers these days, Pep, for instance, you look at the career he's had, he was lost for an answer, because I think that's, go on one side for 1 second, that's Leeds' issue in terms of succeeding, is the players they've got are decent at what he wants them to do, but the quality that they have aren't quite there. Like Rafinha, you can see why he sticks out like a sore thumb, because he's their best player, because technically he's awesome when he's on the ball, but there aren't many others in that. And I looked at Ayling, second half, Matt, and you could just see with his body language and how he was talking to people around him, he looked lost for answers. He's looking around, he's the captain, he's looking around, and nobody could find an answer. So much so when they had it, he was just putting it down the line. He was just trying to get the ball upfield, going through the motions that we've seen so often this season of, look, I just want to get back to coaching and go home, mate. This is just not ours today. And again, doing that to be a Bielsa side, because what did I say the other day when we were previewing this, Matt, in the pod, that this is one of the worst opponents I felt we could have had today, simply given how fit, how quick they are, all the Bielsa stuff that's now legend wherever he's managed. I was really shitting it looking at today. And we, like you say, you go back to it, yeah, we beat them at what they're good at. What do they do then? Can they do what Everton are good at? No, because we haven't been good at any for the start. But I did want to point out this midfield. And Van der Beek come in for his first start, and I thought he was brilliant. I know you said he looked like to tie things out in the second half,
which is totally natural.
It is if you're doing what you're trying to beat Leeds at. Yeah. Do you know, like we've just said this.
It's not as if he was not playing frequently at United. He wasn't playing.
No.
He's when was the... You probably would have to go back to his time at Ajax before but he played 90 minutes previously and today.
I was thinking that, did they mistaken Davy Klassen for him when we signed him a few years back? Because this lad has got so much quality on the ball. When he gets played into him, he does that thing that top class midfielders do in terms of shielding the ball when he's already got the right body shape. When he receives the ball, he turns, looks for another pass. I thought he was brilliant today. That's one of the best debuts I've seen at Goodison in a long time, and it was a lot of faith that Lampard put into him there, because obviously he's been here just over a week.
Well, and don't forget,
like you say, he hasn't played. He's I think 8 games this season for United, all off the bench.
Yeah, and don't forget when we did our preview of this in the week, we sort of said, would a midfield three of Ali, Van der Beek, Alan be a little bit lightweight? And it was even more lightweight because it was just 2 of them in there today against Leeds' 3. And yet it's just you can see
he's trying to get forward, Matt.
He just drips in Ajax, doesn't he?
Yeah.
All the things that you associated with that football club in regards to being intelligent on the ball, technically good, working hard. It's all
loves a scrap. You can tell he loves a scrap,
and that's something I didn't necessarily know he had. He was putting himself in there, putting his head in there, got a nosebleed at one point as well. I think he got a bit of a whack in the face, but he just always seems to pick the right option. There was a couple of times in the first half where I think he had a few players around him, and you're conditioned as an Everton fan to thinking the midfielder's going to just try and knock it off one of these players in and get a throw in or get something for us, and we'll reset. And he just sort of took his time, like you said, had a little look, and then played a pass between a couple of players into someone in midfield. And it's not, he's not flashy or really skillful, is he? He's just, you can just sort of see that he sort of weighs up the right possibility very, very quickly and makes it. And I think there was a sort of a natural chemistry there between him and Alan today. There were times where Alan went hunting for the ball, as we spoke about in the week, and Van der Beek was quite happy to just sit in and sit in front of the back forward and protect. And it was a really encouraging debut. And it's just you want to see him probably get forward a little bit more as well on the edge of the box, you know, although he gets into the box for that first goal.
Steady on.
Oh, yeah, don't want to be too lopsided.
Like we said, we spoke so heavily about this midfield, about Alan, because that performance, there are a few things that happened at Newcastle that I thought were an absolute disgrace, in a lot of our players sort of not wearing that shirt with any sort of pride. To change that 5 days later, is a lot in Lampard's favour and how good he's done. You'd like to think there's a touch of Duncan here. Look, these are all the things the romance side of stuff everyone will want to talk about with this sort of stuff. But with Van der Beek, he kept things simple, and I think that way to use a calculator, that's what I looked at when he had the ball. Yeah. You know, when you were talking about before, like about certain players when they get the ball, you can see them thinking, you can see Iwobi thinking, but the thing what he probably lacks is doing it quicker, getting it out to his feet as quick as possible. Same sort of thing, dare I say, it Barkley used to be like when he started being the player that we didn't want at the end. Van der Beek, though, seems to know this when he receives the ball. It's so Ajax, like you say. And, I mean, you think, look, you've got something that looks quite exciting, to be fair, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We've only earned 3 points against a team that was a place above us in the league. Look, that Southampton game, and then we've got City at home, which is anything, really, on their half, probably, we have to say. But with Van der Beek, you've got the core to come back in there. At pound to a penny, I'm almost certain if he was asked about it, Lampard would tell you that what was focused in training was that midfield, that pivot, those 2 pivots we needed. And Alan, for God's sake, just stay in position, mate. And there were only a couple of times I noticed it, because I do watch that lad heavily. I'm not too sure why, but when he did charge forward, or he trying to get involved on the edge of their box, that's fine as long as someone else is there. Yeah. And at times Van der Beek was, and that'll be the same thing when Decore gets back, possibly next week. And what he was doing was, I'd love to think, Van der Beek saying, look, if you're going, tell me I'm staying, because he can be an attacking midfield threat. So, you know, when we're in possession, that's something I hope that they've already got figured out. And look, that's a brilliant start today against a midfield that is very combative. They're very fast. They love getting the ball out wide. Rafinha was non-existent today. If you didn't know he was there, if you didn't know what he looked like, you'd think he didn't play. Yeah. And again, moving over to somebody else.
He was injured at half time.
No.
Well, I don't know if he was injured at half time or just got dragged out.
No, they made subs like that. 3 subs half time, was it?
No, they made one in the first half, injured. And then 2 Dallas got injured, didn't he? And
that's right. Yeah.
And I can't remember the other one it was who came off, but Kenny dealt with him pretty well, didn't he? Yeah.
He did. I had no fault with him today at all. It was quite.
Was that bit in the first half in front of their fans where he brought a long ball down, lifted it over someone's head, and then played like an outside of the foot cross that was just just a little bit over Calvert-Lewin's head?
Well, that's where the goal come from. After that, we immediately win it back, like you say, with the Richarlison stuff, and then Coleman, typical like Coleman goal that is, it just throws his life at it and nods it in. It was a lovely moment at the end, which I'll put onto our Twitter, which you guys will see later. He come right over to our corner I was at, and where the usual Sky presenters are in the corner, the level below that is where they allow the players' families to sit and all that. And his little kids were there, and I don't know if you've seen, he was doing these weird little dance moves and stuff like that in the corner, and his kids were copying him and all that. I didn't film the kids, of course. It was more Seamus doing that in the corner, and you can tell what it means to him. And you know, when I've criticised them, I think many fans, there's a chalk and cheese thing with him. People who feel like they can't criticise him because they love him so much, and I get that. At the end of the day, we're fighting to stay in the Premier League. So what's the most important thing is Everton winning games and him being part of that. And that was what it was today. That's what you want to see. That linked together. I thought he was fine at right back. I think one of the things I noticed you mentioned before that I did want to mention about him was there was very, I can't even think of a time when he did it, where he does the usual ball into feet with Iwobi, sprint past him. There was none of that today. No. I saw him hang deep. I saw him stay there and maybe knock it into Iwobi's feet. He knocks it back to Seamus and then goes himself. And you're like, well, that's all right. Because if we lose the ball then, Coleman's still there. Yeah. Similar to what we were saying about that pivot between Alan and De Beek, you know, Donny van de Beek. But there was stuff, there were ideas, there were things that were working that we have not seen yet. Look, it's just a shame, isn't it, that this isn't the opening game of the season, because we'd be drooling whilst we're doing this.
Yeah.
And I know we're talking now in, we are sort of very smitten about this, aren't we? About this Everton side today. Bigger and equally difficult tasks going to come. Southampton, who've been brilliant away from home, going to their place is going to be a really different challenge with some of the players they've got. Centre half as well. I winced when I saw it, I have to say. Holgate, Keane, oh dear, and didn't see much wrong with them.
Holgate makes a brilliant tackle in the first half on Daniel James.
Yeah. There was one put, and he needs to be applauded for that, because he gets a lot of stick from all of us. Absolutely, and he was good today. And I can tell Paul Clement was screaming at him when he come onto the line next to Lampard, and then Lampard to go and sit in. I hope to think, because I think he's a brilliant coach. As a manager, obviously, he's still to be decided, hasn't he, in what he's done as a manager. But he gets that element of the game tactically. And one of the things I've got to say, Matt, I know we're going to finish in a sec, but Leeds keeper Melier. Yeah. Did you see that save? That's one of the best saves I've seen.
Unbelievable, yeah. Do you know what it reminded me?
Blank. Don't say do the...
No, it reminded...
It was like
that. Oh my
God,
God, as if I was going to say that.
No, but that's what they buzz off that, don't they? But that to me was
talking
like
about the one from Rondon? The volley?
Yeah.
So that reminded... I don't know if you remember this, but it always sticks in my head. It wasn't the best saves I've ever seen at Goodison. When Chelsea beat us 6-3 and Courtois made an incredible save from Morales. It was very similar, back post. I think it was a header from Morales this time, but he flicked it onto the bar.
Pure natural instinct, isn't it?
It was I mean, that it brings us actually quite nicely onto the person I wanted to sort of finish off by speaking about.
Not Rondon.
That's the first sprint he did when he came on. You look like a different fella.
Well, he needs to come back off after it as well, though.
But Ali as well, obviously... He's already got a song, which I'm still trying to get the words off. But,
Dele Alli.
Yeah, I want to be like Dele Alli. But yeah, it felt like he just grew into it when he came on. His first two touches were a little bit loose. But as he sort of found his role and started to understand the game and get used to the tempo of the game, I thought he showed a couple of really nice flashes. Yeah,
this lad's got endless talent. We've seen this all before when he first came from MK Dons to Spurs. He was fantastic, wasn't he? And every time I'm looking at when he gets the ball, I'm looking at someone around him who will link with him. When that happens, you'll get the best out of him. You'll see him score goals and you'll see him give assists. I don't have any doubt of that in my mind. I mentioned to you literally as you entered my car just before, I said you can see why he's received that criticism, and it'd be interesting to hear Spurs fans' view on this. And I hate this term because it's, it has all sorts of connotations, doesn't it? But people who say, "Oh, he's so lazy," Languid was the word you used, Matt. That's exactly it. When I see him, it's not like I'm looking at a lad who just can't be arsed. People will think that when we lose games. People will think that when he's missed chances or when he's not supporting Richarlison, he's not supporting Calvert-Lewin. He's not that. He's just such a gifted footballer that you have to allow him space to express himself. I think the other side is what he still needs to learn, even though he's 25, but he should know by now. But there are things that he needs to learn. He's got the best manager that you could possibly find, who could tell him how to do these things. Where his involvement in a game, there needs to be something more that he brings to it. Yeah. And what we did see, to his complete credit, was he joined in, chasing back. He joined in. It felt like from Iwobi, particularly, he's looked at him and think, I'm doing that. And it was infectious. And that, to me, it's something we desperately needed, is these lads, someone's doing well, why don't we follow him? Let's all follow him. It's not difficult. And I think that's probably the title of this podcast, Matt, is that, it's pretty simple at the end of it all, really, isn't it? We can all sit here talking about pivots and how players work, substitutes, tactics, 3 central defenders. Tonight, you've gone and beat the side that's probably has the most energy in the Premier League at a club where we've hammered them for how lazy some of them have looked, for how not arsed some of them have looked. That's a big, big moment for us tonight. Yes, it may only be 3 points, but there's a blueprint there for Frank Lampard to say to these lads, do that again. Do that again.
Can't say only 3 points when we've taken, what was it, 6 from 45 before today. You know, it's a win, and the nature of the win. It wasn't scrappy. It wasn't a scrambled goal after being under pressure for the entire game. It was a comprehensive display, and I think that kind of win makes it a huge 3 points for me.
Well, talk about getting carried away. I mean, a lot of the fans at your end of the Gladys Street were singing about Lampard winning the FA Cup. Let's calm down a little bit on that. But yeah, it's so nice on a Saturday. It's nice that it's a Saturday 3 o'clock as well, which is not always the case, isn't it? And you can go home happy, having that lovely warm feeling inside your body that Everton have done something decent for once. And look, it needs to continue. It has to continue. We have to get the points on the board. No doubt there'll be a lot of fans who think, yeah, look, we'll easily stay up. I'm looking at possibly still getting into Europe and all that. Just calm down. You go and do it away at Southampton. I might just about have a whiskey and get on the board with you, because we've got Man City at home, haven't we? At the end of the month, and then Boreham Wood.
Yeah.
So look, I have no qualms whatsoever with Everton staying in the FA Cup as long as possible, but as long as Everton stay in the Premier League, that's the most important thing. So these 3 points are far more important than anything we've seen so far, including that 4-1 win against Brentford. Important thing as well, we've done it against a much better side than what we've played so far.
Yeah, big step for everyone today for the football club, and very nice to see a manager come over and actually give it some to the fans at the end as well in Lampard. You know, it's been a while since we've seen that at Goodison Park, because of course Benitez was very hesitant about doing that.
Benitez normally running to the away end, to the coach in the park end.
But he was absolutely loving it, Lampard, at the end. So that was great to see. Lovely to do a positive post-match reaction. It's been a long time, but cheers to Dave. And cheers for listening. Hope you enjoyed that little segment at the start from inside Goodison Park. Let us know if you liked it or not. If you want me to carry on doing it, I will do. We'll be back in the week, of course, building up to that game against Southampton, where hopefully we make it back-to-back wins.
And we'll be